The fuel system supplies the engine with fuel. Most training airplanes have two fuel tanks, one inside each wing. The fuel tanks are vented in order to allow air to enter each fuel tank as fuel is consumed. If air were not allowed in to replace fuel as it were burned, suction would be created inside the fuel tanks. As the fuel was burned, this suction would become greater and greater, making it more difficult to move the fuel from the tanks to the engine. Fuel tanks must be adequately ventilated, and the fuel ventilation system must be free of debris in order to assure proper flow of fuel to the engine. Overflows are placed on fuel tanks to allow fuel to escape the tank in an overpressure situation. For example, since fuel expands when heated, it is common for some fuel to drip from the overflow drain when the airplane is fueled completely full, as the fuel often warms inside the airplane's fuel tanks. The overflow drain allows the fuel to expand and drip overboard rather than damaging the fuel tank. From the tanks, fuel moves to a fuel selector valve in the cockpit, which allows the pilot to select from which tank the fuel is drawn. On many airplanes, the fuel selector valve has an off position, which stops the flow of fuel past the selector valve. Alternatively, an airplane might have a separate fuel shutoff valve. Fuel sumps are placed strategically at low points in the fuel system. Since fuel is a lightweight liquid, water and foreign material in the fuel will tend to settle at these low points. A fuel strainer is used at the sumps during the pre-flight inspection to remove any water or foreign debris from the fuel tanks and fuel line. To assure fuel flow is clear of any contaminants, one or more fuel filters are used. Typically, the fuel is filtered just before entering the engine. A bypass on the filter allows fuel to be routed around the filter should it become clogged or restrict the flow of fuel into the engine. A fuel primer is used to inject fuel from the fuel tanks directly into the engine. This is commonly used to aid engine starting, particularly in cold weather. Fuel gauges allow the pilot to verify the fuel on board.